Marketa Vondrousova is banned from tennis for 4 years and she never failed a drug test. Jannik Sinner failed 2 and he served 3 months. At about 8:05 in the evening on the 3rd of December, a doping control officer pressed the intercom button beside her name at an apartment building in Prague, and Vondrousova did not open the door. That is the entire offense. No sample was taken, so nothing was found. She was not punished for what was in her body. She was punished for the absence of a sample, and that one distinction is why a Wimbledon champion is ineligible until 2030, while 2 of the biggest names in the sport were back on court inside a season. Before we get to Sinner and to Iga Swiatek, you need to understand the thing about the whereabouts system that almost everybody gets wrong. On the evidence, Vondrousova got it wrong too, and it cost her the rest of her 20s. Players in the registered testing pool file their location every quarter, and for every day they nominate one 60-minute slot at a specific address where they will be available. Most people assume that slot is the window. Inside it, you get tested. Outside it, the officer has no business being there. That is exactly backwards. The international standard says it in one line: testing shall not be limited to the 60-minute time slot provided by the athlete. The slot is a floor, not a ceiling. It is a guaranteed hour when they know where to find you, so the rest of the day stays unpredictable. Under the same standard, a player can be tested any day between 6 in the morning and 11 at night. Vondrousova's nominated hour was 7 in the morning. The officer arrived at 8 in the evening at the address her own filing listed for that date, carrying a mission order that said in writing the test need not happen in her slot. She was not ambushed by a loophole, she was tested by the rule as written. Now the half that decides the 4 years. Refusing a test is its own violation under Article 2.3. It sits beside a positive test, not below it, and the starting point is the same 4 years. Think about what a sample actually buys a player. It buys an argument. It can be split, retested, traced to a source, graded for fault. Almost every doping ban you have seen reduced was reduced because a sample existed. Take the sample away and all of those defenses die at once. So if refusal were cheaper than a positive, refusal would be the smart play. Anyone with something in their system would decline to open the door. The code shuts that escape route by making the closed door cost the same. The full reason decision was published on the 31st of July, and it is not the hatchet job people assumed. The tribunal called the doping control officer an honest and straightforward witness and found explicitly that Vondrousova had not falsified her account. But it preferred the officer's account of the evening and held she had been properly notified. The detail that sank her is small and it is contemporaneous. At 8:05, before anything escalated, she messaged her boyfriend, the Czech player Andrew Paulson, to say someone from doping was at the door. Not a stranger, not an intruder, someone from doping. In her own Instagram post afterwards, she called the visitor a tester. The tribunal concluded she understood exactly what the knock was for and that her objection was the hour on the clock. She questioned the timing, never the officer's identity, and she was not new to this. The agency counted at least 83 previous doping control notifications. Her defense was not frivolous. She argued she was suffering from generalized anxiety disorder and an acute stress reaction, that she had endured sustained harassment including death threats, and that a stranger at the door after dark reminded her of the attack on Petra Kvitova, assaulted in her own home in December 2016 by a man posing as a utility worker. 4 psychiatrists gave evidence for her, and the tribunal gave minimal weight to 3. One promised a full expert opinion and never produced it. One had made no diagnosis at all. 2 never appeared for cross-examination. The bar she needed to clear is called compelling justification, and it is deliberately almost unreachable. The precedent gives the examples: fainting at the sight of the needle, an epileptic fit, rushing an expectant wife to hospital. The finding was that it remained physically, hygienically, and morally possible for her to provide a sample. And yet the tribunal wrote that it had every sympathy with her, noted her clean record, and called it a very unfortunate matter. Then it said the part that matters most: proportionality was not its call. Fairness was not its call. Its only job was whether the rule had been broken. 4 days later, she gave a sample. It was clean. She was tested again in May, clean too. None of it helped, and now you know why. Those samples answer a question nobody asked. The question was what was in her on the 3rd of December, and that is permanently unanswerable. Which brings us to the comparison this story exists for. Sinner tested positive for clostebol in March 2024. The source was traced to a physiotherapist who used a spray containing it on his own cup before treating him. No intent, no performance benefit, 3 months, February to May last year. He missed no major. Swiatek, then the world number 1, tested positive for trimetazidine in August 2024. The source was traced to a contaminated melatonin product made in Poland, confirmed by an accredited laboratory in Utah. Her fault was graded at the lowest end of no significant fault, 1 month. Same code, same agency, 1 month and 3 months against 4 years. The variable is not the size of the name, it is not favoritism. It is that Sinner and Swiatek each had a bottle in a freezer that could be tested and argued over, and Vondrousova has a photograph of a woman writing on a form. The football comparison people keep making proves the same point, but not in the direction they are using it. Chelsea's Mykhailo Mudryk was banned 4 years for meldonium. On the 31st of July, the very day the Vondrousova reasoning went public, he was cleared to play again. Not because football is soft, because the anti-doping agency revised its reporting standards, and as the Football Association put it, if his sample were collected today, the concentration would not have been reported, and no anti-doping rule violation would have resulted. His case was resolved because his sample had a measured concentration to weigh against a new standard. Vondrousova has nothing to reopen because there is nothing to measure. So is the system inconsistent? No, it is consistent and it is merciless, and those are not the same thing. She can still go to the Court of Arbitration for sport, and the code gives her 21 days from receiving the decision. She plans to appeal, and her deadline is the 11th of August. If nothing changes, she is ineligible until June 2030, and she will be 30. She may well be exactly what she says she is, a frightened woman alone in the dark who has never doped in her life, but the code was never asking whether she is clean. A positive test is a question, and a question can be answered. A closed door is silence. Silence cannot be split, cannot be traced, cannot be graded, and cannot be forgiven. The 4 years is not a verdict on what she took. It is the price of evidence she never let exist.